She's an Indian television presenter, sign language interpreter, and a social entrepreneur. You would have seen her on Doordarshan. Sign language is very close to her heart. And because it was very close to her heart since she was a child, she founded this organization called Atulya Kala Foundation, which takes care of deaf individuals, their education. Not only that, she's also built a lifestyle brand with that. Today, it's globally known. She promotes the artisans. She promotes their craft. You know, her story is very unique. Why? Because she does it with a lot of passion. So my today's guest is very, very special. Please welcome Smriti Nagpal.
Hi, thank you so much, Hina. How are you?
Thank you so much for being here. And please, I would love to know more about, your passion of working with the deaf individuals. How did it come and how did you start with it?
It was very natural. I was actually born in a family where my elder siblings, they both are deaf and mute. So, and they are like about 10 years older to me. So I was like this little child in the house who was born after 10 years and who could hear and speak. And so sort of I intentionally or unintentionally became that bridge between my family, my siblings, and the communication. So I picked up sign language really early. My mother tells me that I started signing even before I started speaking. So it's just, I was always part of this community. It just started growing and growing more on me, and I just took it ahead and did what I'm doing right now. But yeah, that was the initial.
So that's how Atul Kalya was born. And how did you actually form the entire thing? You were a young entrepreneur. You knew from day one that you never wanted to do a job. And how did this thing come up? How did this foundation come up? Yours is the only one in the country, by the way. What is it all about? Please tell me more about it.
I think I would blame my father for that, because coming from a business background, I don't know, but I just somehow during my 10th and 11th knew for the fact that I don't think I would ever be applying for a job and going for an interview, which I don't know if I should be proud or not, but that was something that I have just always been done. So it was after my graduation, I tried to work with my father for a couple of years, and I realized that, okay, I do not want to, dig into his business, and I would stick myself to what I love and what I'm passionate about, which was actually, to simplify, it was just three things. One was creating something and finding solutions for the problems that we have. Second was sign language, and third was design. So all these things really just were, something that defined me always. And that's when Atulya Kala was born, because by Atulya Kala we means Atulya, which is unparalleled, and Kala means art. So when I started it, I stumbled, I met a deaf artist at a very, very random location. It was just an exhibition, and he just tapped me and said, oh, I have seen you, and just help me find a job, because I don't want to do this what I'm doing. And being like in my early 20s, and I was just a freshly graduated woman in this country where social enterprise was not even a term. Like, after working with this for 6-7 years, now I see this is a buzzword, right? Everybody knows what social enterprise means and what a double bottom business means. But back then, even though I studied business, this was never a concept in our studies. So, and I wasn't really sure how can I help him or, the community in any way. I was merely an interpreter and a news channel reader in sign language, but that's it. So I said, okay, you know what? I don't know what I can do for you, but come meet me after a month. And I then went to his college, where he graduated and did his master's from. And that's when I realized that there are so many more deaf people who have really qualified degrees in, animation, graphic designer, interior designing, Google AdWords, social media, all those things, but there's no place for them to get a job. And the gap that I saw and I met was communication. So everybody, every company, every brand, always told me that, Smriti, how are you going to explain it to them? We would always require an interpreter. and that's not feasible. So that's when I thought, okay, if that's the only issue, then I don't need that, right? I can speak the language, and why not just create something? And that's when Atulya Kala started. Initially, we didn't know that we are going to become a lifestyle brand. We just was going to be a design house and take like client briefs and work for them. So I hired few deaf designers, and we started just making our little team of 2-3 people. But after the first year of our operations, we realized that product would be something that will give us more power to spread awareness about the community and also bring them to a mainstream level, because now they were not working as manual laborers, but they were working as designers, as creators, as people who were imagining and creating the products for us. So that's where we lie now, and that's what we do.
So how many artisans do you have, Smriti, as of now? I mean, how many people work under your brand?
So we are a team of 20 people, and our company is not oriented on getting all handmade craft done by community. Like, that was never the agenda. The agenda was to have these people be part of every department. So all our sales points, all our exhibitions, wherever we have Atulya Kala represented, the person behind the table or behind the label is always a deaf person. So I have never had any hearing salesperson in my team, which was very people used to ask me that how is a deaf person going to go sales for you? Like, how is that going to work? But that was the whole point. So our departments are divided in all sort of like sales, and then we have operations, we have production, designing, and in every department we have people who are from the community, and our ratio is about 80 to 20, 80% being deaf and 20% being hearing, and that's the kind of like team that we create.
Wow, Smriti. Also, as far as I know, you are the only brand or one of the brands that did the break even, or in the very first year. Was it all planned, or did this just happen because you were all passionate about this?
I wish I planned it a little more, but no, we started off and we just created very few products which we were ready to showcase. We had our online presence and it went off, and I think we were really smart in cutting down on our operational costing in the beginning, which sometimes when you create a brand, everybody tries to amplify it in the beginning so much that it adds on to your extra cost like by the end of the year, right? So for me, it was always small steps, and it really helped me in cutting down all my extra money and extra expenses, and we had good sales. People loved our products. People didn't think that we are shouting and telling that it's made by disabled community. No, it was just, we have a very subtle way of informing people that it's designed by a deaf person, or simply we just say that it's India's only lifestyle brand which is run by deaf people. So it just gives a very subtle information about where this product is coming from. And I love the fact that people used to pick it up from the stores, not because they had a sense of charity or donation, but purely because they thought, oh, this product would go well with my existing things. And that's what we always wanted. We never wanted to have people coming in giving us donation in the boxes. So
yeah, I saw, because you've created a lifestyle brand. You've kept it away as like, it's not an NGO, it's not positioned as an NGO. It's positioned as a lifestyle brand where people come, like it, and don't buy it or pay because they like it.
Yeah, I think we have too many NGOs and charities to donate to in India. I didn't want to add it to it. So I always thought that when you run anything dependent on someone else's donations, then your entire cycle of planning is in a reverse form. Because then my idea would go like, okay, how much money am I getting? How much I'm going to go give it to my employees? How much I'm going to allocate to this one? So it somehow used to, downgrade my passion for it. And that's why my model was always, aim for the sales, get the money, and make sure this is my monthly like expense, I have to crunch the numbers and I have to reach there no matter what. And it was important. I mean, that allowed me to check, to benchmark my growth, and to understand that okay, now we can afford to hire 2 more people. Now we can afford to expand to 2 new stores. So it was all goal oriented always. That's how I never wanted to start with the no offense to organizations. I know so many of them are doing such wonders that uh, I would wish to reach, but my aim was little
Yes,
different
and
from.
you created a niche. You've created that niche, Smriti. Now, my next question is, lockdown has been really, really tough. I'm
Yeah.
sure it's also tough with your people and the artisans. How are you building up their mental health, and what are they going through in lockdown? How has lockdown been with you, for you, Smriti?
Yeah, I mean, it's been a very difficult time for each and every one of us across the globe. And personally, running a business which is, self-sustained but yet small, it's also not considered as the essentials and something that people would only pay if they have extra income coming in. So, I mean, I know it was just a lot of haywire, and we had to shut down all our stalls. We had to, you know, uh, and with the competition and with the limited income that people have right now to spend, even the online tractions are not how it used to be. So of course it's been quite a difficult task, but we didn't fire anyone. We loved our team, we love our team, so we made sure that each and every person that we have part of, because I have literally handpicked everybody with so much love in my team that it's a family, and I wouldn't have been here without them. So we've continued to give them, the financial support that we could. But apart from that, I am always and every day, just busy talking to my team members, honestly, without even having any work to do. Because and my team is such that I get calls at odd hours. I get calls at any time of the day, and we usually talk through WhatsApp video calling because sign language. It's just so easy to communicate there. And I have always had this sort of employee relationship with all my team members, that I have never been looked upon as a boss, or as somebody that they are who is unapproachable. And I think that little thing has helped me maintain my team during the corona times, because I've had people whom I employed for a work that is absolutely not in use right now, and they knew it for the fact that it's not feasible or not even right for me to pay them for their services. But just because of the communication that we had, that person could talk to me and tell me that, currently I have this issue going on in my household and I just need you to help me in whichever way you could. So I think, and for everybody going through tough times, the only and the best way would be a very, very easy and a light communication. Nobody wants lectures, right? Nobody wants you to come and tell you that this is wrong and this is right. Sometimes you can just listen to the person and it just feels better. So I've been trying my bit. I've been in touch with them all day, like every day, and trying to do what I could do best from with this whole social distancing and everything. Let's hope this all goes away very, very soon. Can't wait.
Yes, yes, and you're so correct that all you need today is listening ears, because
Yeah.
we are facing is we don't have somebody to hear, and that is what we are facing today.
Yeah.
Smriti, how you just got married? It's been a year.
Yeah.
How have you balanced your work and your personal life? A little bit more about it.
I've been. I got married last year. Actually, it was just my first anniversary 2 days back. So just completed a year, and
Congratulations.
but I've known him from
Congratulations.
many years, and thank you. And we've been, together from last 4 years. And the reason why we both actually met was because of my work, and that's how he saw me at one of our annual events, and he thought, okay, this is the woman that I would want to marry. I had absolutely no idea that time, and with his persuasion and his determination to make me his wife, we got married. I fell in love, and ever since, I think he's been quite a massive support for me, because I never realized that a woman would go through so many changes just because we got married, like, just because of this marriage thing. I always thought that it's just symbolic, it's not really going to change anything in me or my life. But damn, I was wrong. It changes so much, and it changes a person. It changes, how you see things, how you prioritize your things. And in the beginning, actually, somewhere my work was taking a back draw. Somewhere I could see it because I was just so interested in spending more time with him, or I would want to he's a pilot, so I would want to spend if he's going on a layover, then I would just want to say, okay, I'll schedule my meeting for the next week, but I'll come with you on the tour. And I was just lucky that sort of my husband is a person who literally pulled me down and tell me, hey, listen, like, we are married and we are going to be together for so many more years, but this is the thing that you were married to first, so you focus on that. And I think it's fine to enjoy your honeymoon period in the beginning, but I did manage to come back. And I think I go a little mad when I am not working. So for my household peace and our happiness, I am always engaged in my work, because that really brings the best out of me. And that's how I've been balancing it. Luckily, we both have been having quite individual space and time, and we give each other that respect. So not been an issue, actually. Quite good. Now he's my person who gives me suggestions when I'm working, that, oh, you should do that and you should do this. So yeah, quite a nice support to have him around.
Smriti, you have been featured under 30 under 30 Forbes. So what is the message that you want to give to the young ladies who are looking to build their own business? What is the one tip you want to give it to them for a successful starter? When you start, everybody wants to work in the first year and the second year. So what is it that you want to tell them? Any young entrepreneur, lady entrepreneur who's going to get a tip from you and listening to you right now.
Yeah. So if you would ask me this question few years back, I would have said that, follow your dreams and follow your passions. But I think you all should follow your dreams. You all should not think any idea is stupid, because every idea is going to become big if you are absolutely determined for it. But I think just following your dreams is not enough. We also, and for me, it came late in my life, but I think genuinely going and doing a very deep research in the area where you are looking to work, and the solution that you have eventually, that whole research and development part is absolute necessity if you want to survive in such a competitive startup ecosystem in India. I mean, this is a time where when you will think you have an idea and you will Google it, you will know someone else is already doing it. So the utmost important thing I feel right now for every young woman or individual is that understand why this whole thing that you want to create or start is important. Do you really think this is required? If yes, then prove it to the world. Prove it to the people that this is why I'm doing it, and this is what you need to buy or use or get. And then you've solved half of your issues. Then sales will just come in and people will just love your idea.
See, coming to you and the last question, whom are you more thankful to for who you are today? Whom do you give the credit to maximum?
My mom is going to kill me for this, but my father, I think, I don't know, but this guy has already taught me a lot during my teenage, and actually my parents, both of them, have been people who never, living in my teenage years, living in Delhi, which is so infamous for women's security, and having all that said, I never had this coming from my parents telling me that this is not right for you, or you should not do this. I never knew that what a woman is supposed to do and what a man is supposed to do. I never had that kind of diversification in my living. So, and the only thing that my parent told me was that we trust you too much, so this is the only thing that we can give you during your growing years and things like that. But and that's literally was in my heart so deep that I always felt, okay, this they only need me to keep their trust, fine, that's it. So I have learned so many things from them, which actually has been engraved in my everyday doing also, and it has really helped me make who I am today. But I think that was just till I was in my teens. After that, I stopped listening to them like any other child, and then I would give all my credit to my traveling. I was very fortunate. I started traveling really early, solo, alone, visiting places, called for conferences, for awards, for talk shows, and all that gave me so much deeper understanding of, the cultures and different people and different kinds of people, good, bad, best, all sort of. And it really helped me know that what all good things I want to pick up and what all negative things I want to let go. And so I think it's mix of both the things that I've had.
Thank you so much for sharing your inspirational stories, Smriti. It means a lot.
Thank you so much, Hina. Thank you. Take care.